Hello everyone, it's your host Get Good Fox, and I'm going to be reviewing a new weapon recently added just a few days ago into State of Decay 2, the Choppah. I'm going to tell you what it is, where to get it, and how good is it, including would I use it in my Lethal Zone game. So, what's the Choppah? Well, it's a new bladed weapon that was added into the Fearsome Footage Bounty Broker pack, and it arrived in October 2021. So that means the way we get it, we gotta go mosey on down to Cache Beaumont. If you're new to the game, you can find them by searching for the money bag icon. Looks like a blue friendly enclave icon, and just drive down over there and we can pick up the bounty. Now, the bounty for the Choppah is to kill 2 plague hearts with bladed weapons, and when you finish it, you'll get 1 Choppah as payment, but if you want more than one, you're going to have to pay 750 influence after finishing the bounty. So, about the bounty, bladed weapons are not especially good against plague hearts, which means you can make this a lot easier on yourself by reducing the game difficulty, as well as bringing some bombs or a gun to weaken the plague heart first, because you get full credit as long as the final hit that actually kills the heart is a bladed weapon. But now that we've got the Choppah in our hands, the next question is, how good is the weapon? And the first step is to analyze the stats. So first up is dismemberment, and the dismemberment is really high, on par with the Bastard of Belleau Woods, a sword often viewed as the best bladed weapon. The funny thing though is that dismemberment is not an important stat when it comes to really optimized gameplay, and that's because your goal with swordplay is just to kill the enemy in 1 or 2 hits, or to spam one-hit kill executions on everything, and dismemberment doesn't help you do either of those things. So this weapon could have 0 dismemberment, and in terms of optimized Lethal Zone gameplay, wouldn't change the rating at all. It does have its uses. I'll talk about that at the end, when dismemberment is useful, but for now we'll just say it's very high, very pretty, but kind of who cares? Next up, we'll look at the lethality. This is typically the main stat that people are looking at in a good bladed weapon, and the answer is that the Choppah has pretty good lethality. It is a little bit behind other, really strong bladed weapons, and it's definitely behind Belleau Woods once again, but Belleau Woods is kind of the exception to the rule. So overall, I would say the lethality is perfectly functional. It's only a little bit worse than other weapons like the high-angle rescue hatchet and the ice pick axe. The next relevant stat is speed at its max, but that's actually not saying much, as it's really common for bladed weapons to have extremely high speed, so it's more kind of a requirement. You would expect a good bladed weapon to have very high speed. Next up, you've got ease of use. This determines how much stamina the weapon uses when you swing it around, and it's got really good ease of use. Once again, it's not quite as good as the more top-tier bladed weapon. That's kind of a theme with the Choppah overall, but it's still really, really good. I'd be happy with that quantity of ease of use. And the final relevant stat is the weight, which is 2.1 pounds. This matters to people who like to use marathon because they need to stay in lightweight carry in order to maintain their infinite sprint ability, and 2.1 pounds is pretty average for bladed weapons, and that means it's kind of not good, because as a marathon user, you're going to want excellent, not average. And if you compare that to the ice pick axe, it only weighs 0.5 pounds, which is pretty wild. So it's drastically worse than the ice pick axe here. Alright, so now what I want to do is compare the Choppah to other weapons directly, and I've chosen a blend of top tier, just the best bladed weapons, a weapon that is similar to the Choppah, and then lastly a very common bladed weapon that is still really good. So first up is the Slasher Machete, another weapon from the same Bounty Broker pack, Fearsome Footage, and it's basically strictly better than it. Is equal in stats in every single way, except it has ever so slightly better ease of use. So I don't know, Slasher Machete, obsolete. Next up is the high-angle rescue hatchet from the Critical Response pack, and I like this bladed weapon quite a bit. I think it's just better than the Choppah, though it does have 2 weaknesses. One, the ease of use isn't as high, but it still has plenty of ease of use, and then on top of that, it is a rather heavy weapon at 6 pounds, so definitely a no-go for marathon users. But the other stats are just so high, especially the durability. You can chop through so many zombies with the rescue hatchet before it breaks down, so I think it's just strictly better than the Choppah. Next up, you've got the Ice Axe. Oh, I've been calling it the Ice Pickaxe this entire time, but the Ice Axe, it's even better. You might see this big red line like, oh god, it's got so much less dismemberment, but once again, dismemberment just not important in like optimized gameplay, so it's basically strictly better because we can just ignore the dismemberment, massive durability, even higher ease of use, and only 0.5 pounds. And now we've got B.O.B., the Bastard of Bellow Woods, and this weapon, of course, is going to blast the Choppah out of the water, but that's because it is a rather exceptional weapon. Its only real weakness is that it's not as durable, but ever since Undead Labs doubled the durability of all weapons, that's not as big of a deal, though the B.O.B. still will break down a little bit faster, but obviously an absolutely fantastic bladed weapon. And my final comparison is against the buoy machete, and that's because this is a very common weapon. You probably get at least one in every single playthrough that you do, and as you can see, despite being very common, we can ignore dismemberment, but a good, healthy chunk higher lethality, just a smidge lower on the ease of use, and yes, the durability is a bit lower, but this is a very common weapon once again. I think it gives you a good idea of what weapons are being compared against and what they're going against, because this is still a very good bladed weapon despite being common. Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap things up with when is dismemberment useful and how good is the Choppah? Would I use it in my Lethal Zone gameplay? The answer, though, for dismemberment is you should always keep at least one high dismemberment weapon available in your inventory because you will get objectives from time to time that want you to chop off zombie arms. For example, in the Fearsome Footage pack, the Slasher Machete bounty is to chop off 40 zombie arms, and it's useful to have specifically a high dismemberment weapon just for that task. But how good is the Choppah? And I would say it's not bad. I'd say it's a little bit over average, definitely serviceable. I absolutely would use it in the Lethal Zone. However, it's definitely not the best bladed weapon, and I think it's rather expensive at 750 influence. So my perspective would be, yeah, go ahead and unlock it. Now, if you really like the look of it, sure, go ahead and buy some more. But if that doesn't matter to you, I would not dump my influence on this weapon. Like I said, 750 are a little bit steep, and I would just wait for a better weapon to come out in a different bounty broker pack and stock up on those as your general everyday bladed weapon. But overall, it's not a bad weapon. It's just not the best weapon, but you don't need the best weapon to do pretty fine in the Lethal Zone. Like I said, the buoy machete will work in the Lethal Zone, and that's a commonly available weapon. Anyways, that's what I think of the new October 2021 weapon, the Choppah, added to the Fearsome Footage Bounty Pack. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Tell me what is your favorite bladed weapon. Like the video if it was interesting. Subscribe for future Decay 2 content. Of course, remember that you don't have to be good to get good.